Standing in the shadow of a massive stone slab, your fingertips brush against grooves carved thousands of years ago by hands we'll never know. These aren't just random scratches, they're deliberate, intricate, and often hauntingly precise. Across every continent, ancient builders left behind stonework that continues to baffle experts today. How did civilizations without modern tools achieve such perfection? Why did they encode complex knowledge into rock faces and monuments? This isn't just about old stones, it's about unraveling the silent language of our ancestors. From the eerie symmetry of polygonal walls that defy earthquakes to celestial alignments carved with astronomical accuracy, these mysteries push us to rethink what we know about human ingenuity. Over the next 39 revelations, you'll witness carvings that predate written language, structures aligned with stars we've only recently discovered, and artifacts that suggest lost technologies. Each one is a puzzle piece in humanity's grandest story, one written not on paper but in stone. One of the most mind-bending aspects of the Great Pyramid isn't just its scale, it's the chilling precision of its construction. Each massive block, some weighing as much as 80 tons, fits against its neighbor with gaps measuring less than a millimeter. That's tighter than most modern masonry. To put it in perspective, even today, with laser-guided tools, replicating this level of exactness would be an enormous challenge. So how did a civilization without wheels, iron tools, or even pulleys pull this off? Some researchers point to the Egyptians' mastery of geometry, using simple but ingenious tools like wooden rollers and copper chisels combined with abrasive sand to wear down surfaces with painstaking patience. Others propose more controversial ideas like the possibility of sound-based levitation or even lost forms of concrete casting. Then there's the eerie celestial alignment. The sides of the Great Pyramid point almost perfectly to the four cardinal directions, with an error margin of just a fraction of a degree. How did they achieve such accuracy without compasses or satellites? Some believe the builders used the stars, tracking the movements of constellations like Orion's belt, which the pyramids seem to mirror. Whether it was genius craftsmanship or a forgotten advanced technique, one thing's certain: the deeper we look, the more questions arise. What other secrets are locked inside these ancient stones? Now, picture standing in the middle of a desert so vast and lifeless that the only company you have are stones. Stones arranged in patterns so enormous, they can only be truly seen from the sky. The Nazca Lines sprawl across Peru's barren plains like the sketches of some ancient giant, stretching for miles in perfect, uninterrupted lines. How did a culture more than 2,000 years old create artwork on such a colossal scale, with no way to view their own masterpieces from above? What's even more baffling is the precision. These aren't just haphazard scrapings in the dirt. Each line is crisp, deliberate, and maintains its exact proportions despite the uneven terrain. Some depict animals like a hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spider with unnervingly accurate anatomy, or a whale swimming through what was once an ocean of sand. Others form spirals and zigzags that seem to point toward distant mountains or celestial events. The builders didn't have drones, satellites, or even hot air balloons, so how did they ensure their designs stayed flawless over such vast distances? Mainstream archaeologists believe the Nazca people might have used simple but effective surveying tools, ropes, stakes, and careful pacing to map out their designs before removing the dark volcanic stones to expose the lighter earth beneath. Others argue these lines functioned as ritual pathways, walked during ceremonies to honor gods or ancestors. Some researchers go further, suggesting they served as astronomical markers, aligning with solstices or constellations. Then there are the more unconventional theories. Could these have been landing markers for something beyond human understanding? but perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Nazca Lines is their endurance. The lack of rain and wind in the desert has kept them intact for centuries, untouched by time. Whoever created them intended for their message, whatever it was, to last. These stones don't just sit silently, they wait, and the longer we study them, the more we realize how little we truly know. What if we've been misreading their meaning all along? As we move from the desert to the depths of another mystery, one thing remains clear: these ancient minds saw the world differently than we do. Their works weren't just functional, they were monumental in every sense of the word, meant to outlast civilizations. Buried in the rolling green hills of Wales rest the true architects of one of history's greatest logistical puzzles, bluestones weighing up to 4 tons each, later placed in a circle over 150 miles away. While Stonehenge's towering sarsen stones dominate the landscape, it's these smaller, unassuming bluestones that hold the deeper mystery. Their journey from the Preseli Hills to Salisbury Plain defies simple explanation, crossing rivers, valleys, and dense forests long before roads existed. Ancient Welsh folklore claims the wizard Merlin transported them through magic, lifting the stones with supernatural ease. But modern researchers have tested more earthly methods: wooden sledges dragged over greased logs, teams of oxen hauling them on makeshift rafts along rivers, even theories that glaciers carried them partway during the Ice Age. Yet none fully explain how Neolithic people without wheels or metal tools orchestrated such a feat. Then there's the question of why. These weren't just any rocks. Geologists found that the bluestones possess unusual acoustic properties, ringing like bells when struck, and local traditions speak of their healing energies. Some believe they were pilgrimage objects carried to Stonehenge as sacred relics. Others argue their transport was a monumental power play, a king's statement of control over distant lands. But perhaps most intriguing is the growing evidence that Stonehenge may have stood in Wales first. Recent excavations reveal an identical stone circle in the Preseli Hills, dismantled and moved piece by piece. Were these stones the heart of an older ritual site, transplanted to unify 2 lands? Every theory pulls us deeper into the minds of people who saw stones not just as tools, but as vessels of meaning. Each attempt to solve this riddle only peels back another layer. As we leave these misty hills, another mystery calls, one where stones were shaped so precisely they defy the tools of their time. High in the Andes, where the air thins and the past whispers through ancient stone, the walls of Sacsayhuamán rise like the jagged spine of some long slumbering beast. These aren't just stacked rocks, they're a colossal jigsaw puzzle, with limestone blocks weighing as much as 200 tons, locked together so tightly that not even a razor blade can slip between them. The precision is staggering. Each stone curves and angles to fit its neighbor perfectly, creating waves of zigzagging walls that mirror the fangs of a puma, an animal revered by the Inca as a symbol of strength and divinity. How did a civilization without iron tools or the wheel carve and maneuver these behemoths? Some researchers suggest the Inca softened the stone with a mysterious plant-based concoction, molding it like clay before it hardened again, a theory supported by local oral traditions. Others point to their mastery of geometry, using simple tools like bronze chisels and hammerstones to painstakingly shape each block over years of trial and error. But what's truly unsettling is the engineering foresight. The walls lean slightly inward, a design that's kept them standing through centuries of earthquakes that flatten modern buildings. Beyond the how lies the why. Sacsayhuaman's alignment with the solstices hints at celestial significance, while its labyrinth of rumored underground tunnels fuels speculation about hidden chambers or ceremonial passageways. Was it a fortress, as Spanish chroniclers claimed, or a temple where the heavens and earth met? The stones refuse to yield their secrets, their silence a reminder that the Inca's brilliance outstrips our understanding. As the mist curls around these silent sentinels, another mystery beckons, one where statues gaze across an ocean, their backs turned to the land they were torn from. On the loneliest inhabited island on Earth, where waves crash against cliffs in endless rhythm, stone giants stand sentinel over a vanished world. Easter Island's Moai statues aren't just sculptures, they're silent witnesses to a civilization's rise and fall. Carved from compressed volcanic ash, some stretch 33 feet tall and weigh as much as a dozen elephants. But their sheer size isn't the real puzzle. It's how they traveled nearly 11 miles from the quarry to their coastal perches without wheels, draft animals, or even ample timber for sledges. Local legends claim the statues walked, guided by the supernatural mana of chiefs or gods. Modern experiments reveal a possible truth behind the myth. Teams using ropes could have rocked the Moai forward in a shuffling motion, walking them inch by exhausting inch across the island. But this theory isn't without controversy, where patterns on ancient roads suggest some were dragged horizontally, leaving grooves that mirror the islanders' own oral histories of fallen Moai abandoned mid-journey. Why go to such lengths? The answer might lie in the statue's hollow eye sockets, once filled with coral and obsidian to awaken their gaze. These weren't mere monuments, they were conduits between the living and ancestral spirits, their backs turned to the sea to watch over villages. Yet the very obsession that birthed them may have doomed the island. As rival clans carved ever larger Moai, deforestation and resource wars erupted, collapsing the society that built them. The Moai's empty stares now serve as a haunting lesson about unchecked ambition and ecological limits. From one island's cautionary tale, we turn to a continent where stones were shaped not just by tools but by fire. Towering from the sheer face of a basalt cliff, the Kailasa temple doesn't just occupy its surroundings, it emerges from them, as if the mountain itself chose to take divine form. Unlike most temples built block by block, this monolithic wonder was carved downward, a staggering feat where workers sculpted not by adding but by removing. Imagine standing atop the cliff, hammer and chisel in hand, tasked with hollowing out an entire mountainside into pillared halls, soaring spires, and life-sized elephant sculptures, all without a single misstep. The scale is dizzying. Over 200,000 tons of rock were painstakingly chipped away to create this sacred space, a process that would have taken generations of artisans working in unbroken tradition. Legends whisper that the temple rose overnight, its construction aided by celestial beings, a poetic nod to its seemingly impossible craftsmanship. Yet historians trace its creation to the 8th century Rashtrakuta dynasty, whose artisans likely used nothing more than iron chisels and copper mallets. The real genius lies in their planning. Without modern surveying tools, they worked from the top down, ensuring each layer's proportions aligned perfectly with the next. One wrong strike could have collapsed an entire section, yet every relief of dancing deities and mythic battles remains crisp, untouched by time. More intriguing than how they built it is why. The temple mirrors Mount Kailash in Tibet, the mythical home of Lord Shiva, aligning its corridors and shrines to reflect cosmic pathways between earth and heaven. Some carvings depict scenes from ancient texts so precisely, they've been called stone scriptures, suggesting the temple was more than a place of worship, but a three-dimensional map of spiritual knowledge. Even today, the energy within its walls hums with purpose, as if the stones still remember the hands that freed them from the cliff. From this symphony of chisel and devotion, our journey turns toward the deserts of the Middle East, where another civilization left behind stones that whisper of a different kind of faith. Beneath the columns of a Roman temple complex in Lebanon lies something far older and far more perplexing. The Trilithon of Baalbek isn't just a foundation, it's a trio of limestone blocks, each stretching 64 feet long and weighing more than a fully loaded jumbo jet. Stacked 20 feet high with surgical precision, They form a base so stable it's endured earthquakes and wars for millennia. Yet the Romans, master builders themselves, didn't place these stones. They built atop them, inheriting a mystery wrapped in older legends. Local lore speaks of a time before history when giants walked the earth, hefting these monoliths into place with superhuman strength. Modern engineers grapple with more practical, but no less daunting theories. Without cranes or hydraulics, workers might have used a system of earthen ramps, wooden rollers, and counterweights, orchestrating a ballet of leverage and manpower. But even these explanations strain credibility. The nearest quarry sits half a mile away, meaning someone moved stones heavier than 3 blue whales across uneven terrain. How some researchers propose they were dragged on sledges greased with olive oil, while others suspect advanced lost techniques of weight distribution like anti-gravity or acoustic softening. The enigma deepens when you realize Baalbek was sacred long before Rome. The Phoenicians worshipped Baal here, a storm god whose temple might have been designed to channel celestial energy. The stone's alignment with solstice sunrises hints at astronomical purpose, while their sheer mass suggests they were meant to last beyond human memory or protect against forces we've forgotten. From this landscape of titanic stones and forgotten gods, our journey takes us across the Pacific, where an island's ancient roads lead not to temples, but to questions about a culture that vanished without a trace. Off the coast of Micronesia, where turquoise waves swallow the horizon, lies a ghost city that defies logic. Madol's labyrinth of canals and crumbling basalt platforms sprawls across 92 artificial islands, each one painstakingly constructed from hexagonal stone logs, some weighing as much as 50 tons. Picture this, an entire metropolis built atop coral reefs, its foundations made of volcanic columns stacked like matchsticks in perfect geometric patterns. No mortar, no cement, just sheer precision holding it all together against the relentless Pacific. The question isn't just how the Sordalor dynasty built it, but how they transported these monoliths across miles of open water. Local legends tell of 2 sorcerer brothers who commanded the stones to fly through the air, guided by dragon spirits. Archaeologists, however, grapple with more earthly explanations. Some suggest outrigger canoes lashed together into massive rafts, ferrying the columns from quarries on the opposite side of Pohnpei Island. Others point to tidal patterns that might have allowed builders to float the stones during high tide, nudging them into place with wooden levers. Yet even these theories struggle to account for the sheer tonnage moved, over 2,000 years before modern engineering. Then there's the eerie silence of its abandonment. By the time European explorers stumbled upon Madol in the 19th century, it had been empty for centuries, its corridors choked with mangrove roots. Was it a ceremonial hub where priests communed with ocean gods? A fortress for paranoid rulers, its maze-like canals designed to confuse invaders, or something darker? Islanders still whisper of curses tied to the stones, warning trespassers away after sundown. The truth may lie beneath the waterline. Recent sonar scans reveal submerged structures extending far beyond the visible ruins, hinting at a city much larger and perhaps older than we ever imagined. As the tides claw at its walls, Madol remains a riddle wrapped in salt and legend, its builders' motives as elusive as the sorcerers they revered. From this aquatic enigma, our journey takes us inland to the jungles of Cambodia, where stone faces gaze eternally from the roots of a kingdom lost to time. Dawn breaks over Angkor Wat's towering spires, casting long shadows across walls choked with stories. Every inch of this sprawling temple complex pulses with intricate reliefs. Warriors locked in epic battles, celestial dancers frozen mid-motion, and scenes so vivid you can almost hear the whispers of the past. But among these expected depictions, something unsettling lingers. Carved into the sandstone are figures draped in garments that resemble modern jackets and helmets, clutching objects suspiciously similar to what we'd call today tools or even devices. Were these simply the whims of an artist's imagination, or could they be glimpses of a reality we no longer recognize? The precision of these anomalies defies easy dismissal. One panel shows a cluster of figures gathered around a cylindrical object studded with protrusions uncannily reminiscent of a mechanical apparatus. Another depicts a being wearing what looks like a full body suit with a distinct, almost industrial design. Mainstream scholars argue these are stylized representations of divine armor or ritual attire distorted by centuries of weathering. But fringe researchers counter, what if the carvers were documenting something tangible? Could Angkor Wat's builders have witnessed or possessed technology that history forgot? Beyond the carvings, the temple's very architecture hums with sophistication. At sunrise during the spring equinox, the sun aligns perfectly with the central tower, a feat requiring meticulous astronomical understanding. The entire complex mirrors the Hindu cosmos, with its concentric moats symbolizing mountainous realms and oceans from ancient mythology. Yet the mathematical accuracy suggests something deeper, a blend of sacred geometry and empirical science that rivals modern engineering. As we peel back the layers, Angkor Wat refuses to be just another relic. It's a canvas where myth and potential history collide, leaving us to wonder, were these carvers merely artists, or were they chroniclers of a world far more advanced than we've dared to imagine? From the jungles of Cambodia, our path now twists toward the misty highlands of Scotland, where standing stones whisper secrets in a language older than nations. Stretching across the rolling fields of Brittany like a vast, silent army, the Carnak stones command attention not through towering height, but through sheer numbers, over 3,000 weathered megaliths standing in eerie, unwavering rows. Some reach no higher than your knee, while others loom twice as tall as a person, their surfaces pitted by centuries of wind and rain. Walking among them, you can't escape the sensation of being watched by something ancient and unseen. What force could compel a prehistoric society to erect such a sprawling monument? Local folklore insists these are Roman legionaries turned to stone by a vengeful wizard, frozen mid-March for eternity. But the truth is far older and more intriguing. Carbon dating places their construction around 4,500 years before Rome even existed, long before written history. The precision of their alignment is what truly baffles. The stones don't just stand randomly, they form parallel rows that stretch for miles, converging like the spokes of a wheel toward what may have been sacred gathering sites. Astronomers point to their potential celestial significance. Several key rows align with the sunrise during solstices and equinoxes, suggesting they could have functioned as a colossal calendar, tracking seasons for agricultural or ritual purposes. Others argue the stones mark territorial boundaries or pilgrimage routes, their placement a language of power and identity. But here's the twist, no other site in Europe matches this scale. Moving and positioning even a single megalith would have required coordinated effort, so how did a society with no written records orchestrate thousands? The absence of burials or nearby settlements deepens the riddle. Unlike Stonehenge or Newgrange, Carnak lacks obvious ceremonial artifacts, leaving its purpose open to speculation. Were these stones waypoints for the dead, guiding spirits to the afterlife? Or perhaps a seismic early experiment in communal labor, uniting scattered tribes under a shared vision? Every theory brushes against the limits of our understanding. As the Breton mist curls around these silent sentinels, the stones offer no answers, only the quiet insistence that their story isn't finished. From one enigma of alignment, we cross the Atlantic to another, where ancient hands carved not standing stones, but entire cities into cliff faces. Nestled in the quiet hills of Georgia, a stark granite monument once stood, its sleek, modern surfaces etched with cryptic messages in 8 languages. The Georgia Guidestones weren't relics of some forgotten civilization. They were erected in 1980, a deliberate echo of ancient megaliths crafted for the modern world. 10 directives carved into the stone urged humanity toward balance, calling for controlled populations, environmental harmony, and global unity. But unlike weathered ruins shrouded in time, these stones came with a haunting twist. No one ever claimed responsibility for their creation. The mystery only deepened with their design. The slabs weren't just philosophical manifestos, they were precision astronomical tools. Aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, their central pillar funneled sunlight to mark noon, while a slit in the capstone revealed the North Star. These weren't arbitrary choices. The builders, whoever they were, deliberately mirrored the celestial knowledge of civilizations like the Maya or the Egyptians, blending ancient wisdom with contemporary urgency. Then, in 2022, explosions shattered the Guidestones into rubble, an act some called vandalism, others a targeted silencing. Conspiracy theories erupted. Were the stones a benign roadmap for sustainability or something darker? Critics pointed to phrases like "maintain humanity under 500 million," interpreting it as a call for drastic population control. Others saw them as a time capsule, meant to outlast societal collapse and guide future survivors. The anonymity of their creators fueled endless speculation, secret societies, wealthy futurists, or even a lone visionary playing the long game. Now only fragments remain, but the questions linger. Modern monuments rarely carry the weight of ancient ones, yet the Guidestones manage to stir both reverence and fear in equal measure. They forced us to confront a discomforting idea that the line between prophecy and paranoia might be as thin as the edge of a chisel. Their deliberate ties to prehistoric sites suggest their makers understood something timeless. Stones speak louder than words, especially when no one claims them. As dust settles over this contemporary enigma, we're left to wonder if ancient stones are puzzles from the past. Were the Guidestones a message meant for our future? Their abrupt end leaves no answers, only an eerie reminder that some mysteries refuse to stay buried. Deep in the rainforests of Costa Rica, where vines snake through the undergrowth and howler monkeys call from the canopy, lie artifacts that defy logic. Perfectly round stone spheres, scattered across the landscape like marbles dropped by a giant. These aren't just rocks weathered by time. They're precision-carved orbs, some as tall as a person and weighing as much as 2 small cars. Their surfaces are so smooth, so unnervingly symmetrical, that early European settlers believed they must have been shaped by a lost civilization wielding tools beyond their own understanding. The mystery doesn't stop at their craftsmanship. Some of these spheres were found miles from their quarries, hauled through dense jungle and across rivers without the use of wheels or beasts of burden. How did pre-Columbian peoples transport 16-ton stones through such unforgiving terrain? Archaeologists propose a mix of log rollers, ropes, and sheer manpower, but even then, the sheer coordination required suggests these weren't casual projects. They were deliberate, communal acts of staggering ambition. Then there's the question of why. Unlike carvings or temples, these spheres bear no inscriptions, no carvings, just silence. Some researchers believe they served as territorial markers, their perfection signaling a tribe's dominance. Others argue they mapped the heavens, placed in patterns mirroring constellations or planetary alignments. A few even whisper of ritual significance, that the spheres, with their flawless curves, embodied cosmic harmony or the eternal cycle of life and death. But without written records, the truth slips through our fingers like water. What's most haunting is the fate of their creators. By the time Spanish colonizers arrived, the culture behind the spheres had vanished, leaving no legends, no oral histories. Just the stones themselves scattered like unanswered riddles. Today, looters and erosion threaten these relics, their secrets fading faster than we can uncover them. Now, from the Americas, our journey takes us to another continent, where an ancient metropolis rises from the sands, its stones whispering of a kingdom that once rivaled empires. Rising like a golden mirage from the African savanna, the walls of Great Zimbabwe curve and coil with a grace that belies their ancient origins. These aren't crude piles of rock, they're masterworks of dristone masonry, stacked without mortar yet so precisely fitted that even after 7 centuries their seams remain airtight. The tallest sections stretch nearly 30 feet high, their undulating forms mirroring the silhouette of the sacred hill they encircle. To walk among them is to trace the fingerprints of a civilization that turned stone into power. For generations, colonial historians refused to believe Africans could have built such sophistication, spinning tales of Phoenician traders or even the Queen of Sheba as the architects. But the truth is far more compelling. Carbon dating and oral traditions point to the Shona people, whose descendants still live in the region. Their builders employed a technique called corbelling, carefully layering stones inward as the walls rose, creating stability through balance rather than adhesive. The result, structures that withstand earthquakes and weather with eerie resilience. Beyond the how lies the why. Great Zimbabwe wasn't just a settlement, it was the heart of a kingdom that dominated gold trade routes stretching to the Swahili coast and beyond. Artifacts found here include Arab coins, Persian glass, and Chinese porcelain, proof of a bustling cosmopolitan hub. The conical tower at its center, often mistaken for a grain silo, may have symbolized royal authority, its shadow marking solstice events tied to agricultural cycles. Every stone seems to whisper of a society that understood both commerce and cosmology. Yet the greatest mystery isn't in the walls themselves, but in their silence. By the 15th century, the city was abandoned, its people dispersed. Was it climate change, overgrazing, or a shift in trade that emptied these halls? The stones guard their secrets closely, leaving us to piece together fragments of a legacy as enduring as the walls that refused to fall. Now, our journey turns toward the Mediterranean, where another civilization carved its ambitions into cliffsides and coastlines. High on Malta's sun-scorched plateaus, the island's limestone bedrock tells a story, not in words but in scars. Thousands of parallel grooves snake across the rocky landscape like ghostly railroad tracks, worn deep into the stone by forces we can only guess at. These are the infamous cart ruts, and they've puzzled researchers for centuries. At first glance, they look like paths worn by ancient wagons, but the deeper you look, the stranger they become. Some crisscross in intricate networks, while others plunge straight off cliffs into the sea. What kind of vehicle or purpose could leave such marks? Theories abound, but none fully explain their mystery. One school of thought argues these ruts were used to transport heavy goods, perhaps stone blocks for temples or harvests from fertile valleys. The grooves' consistent width, roughly matching that of ancient wheeled carts, lend some credibility to this idea. But here's the catch: Malta's terrain is rugged, and many ruts climb steep inclines or dead end abruptly, hardly practical for efficient transport. Others suggest they served as irrigation channels, guiding precious water across the arid landscape. Yet the grooves lack the slope or depth needed for consistent water flow. Then there's the ritual angle. Malta's megalithic temples, some of the oldest freestanding structures on Earth, hint at a society deeply tied to ceremony. Could these ruts have been processional paths, worn smooth by generations of bare feet or sledges dragging sacred offerings? Some tracks lead directly to temple sites, reinforcing this spiritual connection. But why create such an extensive system spanning miles for rituals alone? Perhaps the most haunting detail is their age. These ruts could be over 4,000 years old, predating even the pyramids. Whoever carved them left no written records, no carvings, just these silent, intersecting lines. Were they the work of a lost industry, a forgotten trade route, or something more enigmatic? The stones won't say. All we know is that centuries of wind and rain haven't erased them, as if the island itself refuses to let their story fade completely. From this labyrinth of unanswered questions, our path now turns toward a different kind of stone puzzle, one where the clues aren't grooves in rock, but towering pillars reaching for the sky. Beneath the turquoise waves off Japan's Yonaguni Island, the seafloor doesn't just slope, it staircases. Massive, geometric slabs form terraces and platforms so precise, they seem ripped from an ancient city and plunged into the ocean. Discovered in the late 1980s by a diver searching for hammerhead sharks, these submerged structures ignited a firestorm of debate. Are they the work of nature's patient erosion, or the ghostly remains of a civilization swallowed by rising seas? The formations defy easy explanation. Towering pillars, flat-topped pyramids, and even what appear to be carved steps stretch across an area larger than 2 football fields, some resting as deep as 90 feet below the surface. Marine geologists point to the region's active seismic activity, suggesting shifting tectonic plates could have fractured the sandstone into these uncanny shapes. But divers who have brushed their hands along the edges swear they've felt tool mark straight grooves and 90-degree angles rarely seen in natural formations. One particular structure, nicknamed the Turtle, features a striking rectangular altar-like platform with edges so sharp they look deliberately chiseled. Then there's the folklore. Local legends speak of a time when Yonaguni was part of a vast land bridge, later drowned in a cataclysmic event. Some researchers connect these stories to Mu, a Pacific equivalent of Atlantis said to have vanished beneath the waves millennia ago. Skeptics counter that humans couldn't have built here. The site dates to at least 8,000 years old, a time when sea levels were dramatically lower. But what if the builders weren't who we expect? Independent studies have noted similarities between Yonaguni's step designs and other megalithic sites like Peru's Sacsayhuamán, hinting at a possible shared architectural language across lost civilizations. The ocean offers no easy answers. Currents have blurred edges, and coral clings to the stones like a veil, making it harder to distinguish nature's hand from human effort. Every expedition yields new measurements, new theories, but the core question lingers. Are we staring at the world's oldest submerged ruins, or simply a masterpiece of geological chance? As the debate rages on, one truth remains: Yonaguni's silent stones are a reminder that history's deepest mysteries often lie not in the dust but beneath the tide. The 16th mystery, the Göbekli Tepe pillars beneath the windswept plains of southeastern Turkey, buried for millennia beneath layers of earth, lies a discovery that rewrote human history. Göbekli Tepe isn't just old, it's unthinkably ancient, predating Stonehenge by 6,000 years and the Pyramids by 7. What makes this site extraordinary isn't just its age, but who built it: hunter-gatherers long before the dawn of agriculture or permanent settlements. These weren't primitive people, they were master architects carving towering T-shaped pillars from limestone, some weighing over 20 tons and adorned with intricate reliefs of lions, scorpions, and vultures. The precision is staggering. Each pillar was hauled from nearby quarries, erected in circular enclosures, and fitted into sockets carved directly into the bedrock, a feat requiring coordination and skill we never imagined possible for nomadic societies. But here's the real puzzle. Why? Why invest such monumental effort in a site that wasn't a village, wasn't a fortress, and shows no signs of daily habitation? Archaeologists have found no hearths, no trash pits, just these eerie, animal-covered monoliths arranged like sentinels around a hidden purpose. One theory suggests Göbekli Tepe was a ritual hub, a place where scattered clans gathered for ceremonies or astronomical observations. The animal carvings might represent spirit guides or constellations, marking a time when humans saw themselves as part of nature's tapestry, not its masters. But the most haunting clue lies in its end. Around 8,000 years ago, the site was deliberately buried, filled in with thousands of tons of soil until it vanished from sight. Was this an act of reverence, sealing away sacred knowledge, or fear, hiding something the builders didn't want uncovered? The implications ripple through everything we thought we knew. If hunter-gatherers could build this, what else were they capable of? Göbekli Tepe forces us to confront a radical idea. That civilization didn't evolve in slow, predictable steps, but in leaps, some of which we've only just begun to uncover. As the sun sets over these ancient pillars, their shadows stretch long, not just across the landscape, but across time itself. And the deeper we dig, the more we realize how much we've underestimated the minds that came before us. From these enigmatic circles in Anatolia, our path now leads to a different kind of hidden knowledge, one etched not in stone, but in the very bones of a mountain. Buried beneath the waves off the coast of a tiny Greek island, a corroded lump of bronze, and would lay hidden for 2,000 years until divers stumbled upon it in 1901. What they'd found wasn't just another shipwreck relic. It was the Antikythera mechanism, a device so advanced it shattered our understanding of ancient technology. Often called the world's first analog computer, this intricate clockwork of interlocking gears could predict eclipses, track planetary movements, and even forecast the dates of Olympic Games with astonishing accuracy. But here's the twist: its secrets may have been born from stone. The craftsmanship is mind-bending. Tiny gear teeth, some barely a millimeter wide, meshed together with precision that rivals modern engineering. X-ray scans revealed layers of mechanisms, each calibrated to mirror the erratic motions of celestial bodies, something we didn't think ancient Greeks could calculate without telescopes or advanced mathematics. But the real clue lies in the materials. Before metal, there was stone. Researchers now suspect the Antikythera mechanism's design echoes an older tradition of lithic technology, gear systems painstakingly carved from rock, a skill lost to time. Think about that for a moment. This wasn't just a one-off invention. It hints at a lineage of forgotten artisans who might have prototyped these mechanisms in stone before mastering them in bronze. Some scholars point to Archimedes, who reportedly built a similar device, as proof this knowledge existed earlier. Others wonder, if this mechanism survived by chance in a shipwreck, how many others were lost? The Mediterranean seabed could be littered with fragments of even older computers, their stone origins long dissolved by salt water. What's haunting is the gap in history. The Antikythera mechanism predates comparable technology by over a millennium. Why did such brilliance vanish? Was it war, disaster, or simply knowledge too complex to pass down? The device whispers of a golden age where science and art merged, one where stones weren't just tools but blueprints for the impossible. Now, from the depths of the Aegean, our journey climbs to the Andean highlands, where another stone marvel defies its own vanished creators. On a windswept island in Russia's White Sea, the ground twists into cryptic spiral stone labyrinths so precisely laid, they've survived 3,000 years of storms and ice. The Bolshoi-Zayatsky labyrinths aren't mere patterns. They're invitations carved into the earth, their coiled paths beckoning visitors to step inside and lose themselves in their curves. Some stretch over 80 feet wide, their walls built not from towering monoliths but from low, moss-covered stones arranged with deliberate care. Walking them feels like tracing the grooves of an ancient fingerprint, one left by hands we'll never know. What's striking isn't just their age but their placement. These labyrinths cluster on remote islands, far from any known settlements, as if their builders sought isolation for a purpose. Archaeologists have floated theories as tangled as the paths themselves. Were they ritual spaces where shamans or initiates walked to commune with spirits, each turn representing a stage of transformation? The local Sami people, indigenous to the region, speak of labyrinths as traps for malevolent forces, their winding designs meant to confuse and contain evil. Others suggest they served as celestial calendars, their spirals mirroring the sun's path during solstices. Yet the most haunting possibility lies in their physicality. Unlike mazes meant to deceive, these labyrinths have a single, unbroken path leading inexorably to the center and back out again. There are no dead ends, no tricks. To walk one is to surrender to its rhythm, a journey with no wrong turns. Could they have been teaching tools, training minds to embrace patience and focus long before written philosophy? Or perhaps maps of the afterlife guiding souls through the unknown? The stones offer no answers, only echoes. Unlike grand temples or towering statues, these labyrinths demand participation. To understand them, you must move through them just as their creators intended. And that may be the greatest clue of all. Some wisdom isn't meant to be spoken, only walked. Now, as we leave these silent spirals behind, another mystery rises from the sands, one where stones weren't just arranged but orchestrated into sound. High in the dry foothills of Peru's Inca region, a local farmer made a claim that would ignite one of archaeology's most heated debates. Hidden in caves and riverbeds, he unearthed thousands of stones unlike any others, their surfaces covered in carvings so bizarre they seemed to rewrite history itself. Humans towering over long-necked dinosaurs, surgeons performing advanced medical procedures, telescopes pointed at celestial bodies. If genuine, these Inca stones suggest a civilization with knowledge or direct experience of creatures extinct for 65 million years. But are they relics of a forgotten past or an elaborate modern fabrication? The carvings themselves are undeniable feats of craftsmanship. Etched into dark andesite, a notoriously hard rock, the images display startling precision, from the musculature of the dinosaurs to the intricate folds of the human's clothing. Some stones even map constellations with uncanny accuracy, including star systems only visible through modern telescopes. Proponents of their authenticity argue that the stone's weathering patterns and mineral deposits indicate significant age, while their sheer volume, over 15,000, have surfaced, makes a hoax logistically daunting. Yet skepticism lingers for good reason. The stone's modern rediscovery traces back to one man, a surgeon named Javier Cabrera, who amassed the bulk of the collection in the 1960s after purchasing them from local farmers. Radiocarbon dating on organic residue found in some grooves returned mixed results, with some tests suggesting recent origins. More damningly, a few of the farmers later admitted to carving the stones themselves, using illustrations from textbooks as inspiration. But here's the twist: not all the stones fit this confession. A subset, often buried deeper or found in undisturbed layers, resist easy explanation. The debate forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about how history is recorded and who gets to decide what's possible. Could these stones preserve fragments of oral traditions distorted over millennia, or are they simply a cautionary tale about our eagerness to believe in lost worlds? For now, the Inca stones remain suspended between two narratives, one where ancient Peruvians glimpsed a prehistoric past, and another where human ingenuity crafted a mystery too tantalizing to ignore. From this enigma of carved contradictions, our journey shifts to the Pacific, where another set of stones holds clues to a culture's celestial obsession. Towering 867 feet above the rolling plains of Wyoming, Devil's Tower doesn't just dominate the horizon, it defies it. At first glance, its sheer vertical face, lined with uncannily precise hexagonal columns, looks like the work of some ancient titan wielding a colossal stone chisel. But this isn't the handiwork of mythic giants, it's a masterpiece of geology, forged in the furnace of the earth itself. The science behind its formation is as mesmerizing as the legends. Around 50 million years ago, molten magma welled up beneath the surface, cooling slowly over millennia. As it contracted, it fractured into those iconic columns, a phenomenon known as columnar jointing. Think of it like mud cracking under the sun, but on a monumental scale, with each hexagonal pillar locking into its neighbor with near mathematical precision. What's staggering is the uniformity. Some columns stretch over 600 feet tall, their angles so consistent, they resemble a colossal beehive frozen in stone. Yet science alone can't explain the tower's hold on the human imagination. For the Lakota, Cheyenne, and other Plains tribes, this is motto to pillar, Bear's Lodge. Oral traditions tell of 7 sisters pursued by a giant bear. The Great Spirit raised the rock beneath them to safety, and the bear's claw marks became the grooves we see today. Modern climbers scaling its face might chuckle at the tail until they notice how the columns do seem to curve like claw strokes in certain light. The tower's power lies in this duality, a geologic wonder so precise it feels engineered, yet steeped in stories that predate written history. Even its name whispers of mystery. Early explorers mistranslated a tribal term as Bad God's Tower, later shortened to Devil's Tower, but there's nothing diabolical here. Standing beneath it, you feel something far older, a quiet awe, as if the stone itself remembers the fires that birthed it and the hands that later traced its grooves in reverence. From this solitary sentinel of the American West, our journey now turns to a desert where stones don't just stand, they speak. Standing like a misplaced relic in the humid Florida flatlands, Coral Castle defies every law of common sense. Here, 28 million pounds of oolitic limestone form walls, furniture, and even a functioning sundial, all shaped and positioned by one man, a 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant named Edward Līdzkalnis. Working alone under the cover of darkness between 1923 and 1951, Līdzkalnis single-handedly quarried, carved, and arranged these colossal blocks, some weighing more than a fully loaded school bus. When asked how he managed such feats, his answer was as cryptic as his work. "I understand the laws of weight and leverage. The precision is unnerving." A 9-ton gate, balanced so perfectly a child could push it with one finger, rotates without creaking after 70 years, outperforming modern engineering. Līdzkalnis' rocking chairs, carved from solid stone, sway as smoothly as wood, but it's the how that haunts researchers. Witnesses reported seeing him work only with primitive tools, rusted chains, wooden tripods, and metal rods. Yet no one ever caught him in the act of moving the heaviest stones. Neighbors swore they heard him singing to the blocks at night, as if coaxing them into place. Līdzkalnis' own writings fuel the mystery. In pamphlets he sold to visitors, he claimed to have uncovered the secret knowledge of the pyramids, implying he'd rediscovered an ancient method of anti-gravity or magnetic levitation. Modern physicists have toyed with theories. Could he have harnessed Earth's geomagnetic currents or used harmonic resonance to soften stone? Skeptics argue he simply employed clever pulley systems and patience, citing his background in stonemasonry. But even they can't explain how he handled certain feats, like lifting a 23-ton obelisk without cranes. Coral Castle's deeper enigma lies in its purpose. Some see it as a monument to lost love. Līdzkalnis built it after being jilted by his teenage fiancée. Others believe it's a 3-dimensional code, its alignments mirroring celestial patterns or sacred geometry. The truth may be simpler. A lone man armed with forgotten wisdom or sheer obsession proved that weight is just a problem waiting for the right solution. From this humid jungle of stone and secrecy, Our path now leads to a desert where an entire city's fate was sealed not by human hands but by the whisper of shifting sands. The air chills as you step into the tower of London's Bloody Tower, where the walls seem to hum with whispers just beyond hearing. Visitors and guards alike report phantom footsteps, disembodied cries, even the clang of invisible swords. But what if these aren't ghosts in the traditional sense? A fringe but fascinating idea suggests that stone itself might remember. This is the stone tape theory, the notion that intense emotions, especially trauma, can somehow imprint on mineral structures, replaying like a cosmic recording. Proponents argue that quartz-rich stones, common in ancient sites, could act as natural tape recorders, storing energy from past events through piezoelectric properties, the same way a microphone converts sound into electrical signals. When conditions align, these imprints might play back, manifesting as apparitions or sounds. Skeptics, of course, dismiss it as pseudoscience. They point to psychological factors like expectation bias or infrasound, low-frequency vibrations known to induce unease. Yet even hard-nosed researchers admit certain sites defy easy explanation. Take the ruins of Edinburgh's Mary King's Close, where visitors consistently report hearing children's laughter near spots where plague victims were sealed alive. Coincidence, perhaps, but when multiple independent witnesses describe identical phenomena in the same spot, it's harder to shrug away. The theory gains eerie traction when applied to ancient sacrificial sites or battlefields. At Mexico's Temple of the Skulls, some claim to hear drumming during thunderstorms, as if the stones absorb and re-release energy from long-ago rituals. Even modern tragedies leave marks. After 9/11, rescue workers in New York reported phantom ringing phones beneath the rubble, a haunting parallel to the idea of trapped echoes. Whether psychic residue or collective imagination, one thing's clear: humanity has always sensed that stones are more than silent witnesses. They're archives pulsing with stories we're only beginning to imagine how to read. From these whispers in the dark, our journey now turns to a desert where stones don't just remember, they guide. Deep beneath the quiet streets of Royston, England, an unassuming hole in the ground leads to a subterranean world frozen in time. Descending the narrow shaft into Royston Cave feels like stepping into the pages of a forgotten manuscript, one where every inch of the chalky walls is etched with cryptic symbols, weathered faces, and scenes of medieval devotion. Crosses mingle with armored knights, saints stand beside strange geometric patterns, all carved with deliberate care by hands working in flickering candlelight centuries ago. This isn't some accidental grotto. The cave's perfect bell shape, its walls smooth to a near unnatural finish, suggests it was crafted with purpose. But what purpose? The theories are as layered as the carvings themselves. Some historians argue it was a hermit's chapel, a place of solitary worship during the religious turmoil of the 14th century. The abundance of Christian imagery, St. Catherine with her wheel, the Holy Family supports this, but then there are the more unsettling figures, a knight gripping a sword beside a decapitated body, a procession of hooded figures that some link to the outlawed Knights Templar. Could this have been a secret meeting place for the order after their suppression in 1307? Others point to the cave's location at the crossroads of two ancient Roman roads, suggesting it might have been a prison or even a storeroom for smuggled goods. The lack of artifacts complicates the puzzle. No bones, no altar, just the silent vigil of the carvings. One haunting detail stands out, a crude depiction of a horse and rider, their lines worn shallow as if someone traced them over and over like a plea or a promise. Local legends whisper of tunnels stretching to nearby churches, of treasure hidden beneath the carvings. Modern scans reveal no gold, only hollows in the walls that might have held lamps or offerings. The truth may be simpler and stranger. That Royston Cave was a palimpsest of meanings, a space where different groups across different eras left their marks without erasing those who came before. Now, as we leave this shadowy sanctuary behind, our path leads to a place where stones don't just tell stories, they sing. Beneath the tangled oaks and whispered legends of Canada's eastern coast lies a pit so confounding, it's consumed fortunes and lives for over 2 centuries. Oak Island's so-called money pit isn't just a hole in the ground, it's a Russian nesting doll of enigmas, each layer more perplexing than the last, but of all its riddles, none taunts treasure hunters quite like the stone slab. Discovered at the 90-foot mark during an early excavation, this rectangular slab bore a series of symbols so deliberate, they couldn't be dismissed as random scratches. Some claim the inscription was a cipher, a coded message pointing to hidden riches below, perhaps pirate gold, Templar relics, or even Shakespeare's lost manuscripts. The symbols themselves have sparked wild speculation, with amateur cryptographers proposing everything from simple substitution codes to arcane alchemical script. One popular translation reads, 40 feet below lies £2 million. Yet the stone vanished without a trace in the early 20th century, leaving only transcribed copies and sketches behind. Skeptics argue it was a hoax planted to lure investors into funding fruitless digs. After all, Oak Island's history is littered with elaborate traps, flood tunnels that fill the pit with seawater, layers of logs and coconut fiber, a material foreign to the region, and even alleged curses. But here's the twist. Modern scans have revealed anomalies, deep underground metallic objects, voids, and even what appears to be a human-made chamber. Coincidence or proof that the stone's message wasn't just fantasy? The real mystery isn't just what the slab said, but who created it. The pit's design suggests engineering far beyond the capabilities of casual looters. Some theorists point to the Knights Templar, who may have fled to the New World with sacred artifacts. Others blame privateers like Captain Kidd, who supposedly confessed to burying treasure, where none but Satan himself could find it. But perhaps the most haunting possibility is that the pit was never about treasure at all, that the stone's true purpose was to lure, not to guide. As drills bite deeper and technology peels back the island's secrets, one thing's certain: Oak Island doesn't give up its truths easily. Whether the stone was a red herring or a roadmap, its silence speaks louder than any translation. And somewhere beneath those muddy layers, the pit still guards its oldest joke, that the real treasure might just be the obsession it leaves behind. Now, from this labyrinth of greed and speculation, we turn to a desert where stones don't hide gold, they cradle the dead. The Scandinavian coastline holds more than just icy waters and jagged cliffs. It's dotted with silent fleets of stone, their forms so unmistakable they couldn't be mistaken for anything but ships. These are the stone ships, ancient Viking burial sites where warriors were laid to rest within the ghostly outlines of vessels painstakingly arranged from boulders. Some stretch nearly 200 feet long, their prows and sterns marked by towering stones like figureheads frozen in time. But these weren't just graves, they were messages carved into the earth, begging the question: were they meant to sail the dead to the afterlife or stake claim to lands beyond the horizon? The craftsmanship speaks of intention. Each ship is meticulously outlined with stones graded in size to mimic the curve of a hull, some even featuring smaller rocks to represent oars. Archaeologists have found cremated remains and grave goods within these frames, swords bent ritualistically, beads from distant trades, even the bones of sacrificed animals. The Vikings clearly believed these stone vessels served a purpose beyond mere memorials. One compelling theory suggests they acted as spiritual ships, ferrying souls to Valhalla or the realm of hell, their stone bodies immune to decay, unlike the wooden longships they mirrored. But the plot thickens when you notice their alignments. Many of these stone ships point toward the sea or follow celestial patterns. their keels lining up with the sunrise during solstices or the path of certain stars. Was this navigational precision accidental, or did the Vikings encode their seafaring knowledge into these monuments? Some researchers argue the ships doubled as territorial markers, their imposing presence warning rivals that this land, and perhaps the waters beyond, belonged to the ancestors buried there. Others see them as ritual compasses, anchoring the dead to cosmic currents that guided their living descendants across treacherous oceans. The most haunting examples lie at sites like Annenskjöld in Sweden, where a fleet of stone ships seems to sail across a field, their formations echoing the naval might of the culture that built them. Perhaps the truth lies in the duality that these were both vessels and claims, serving the dead while reminding the living of the legacy they left behind. As the northern lights shimmer above them, the stones seem less like relics and more like anchors, tethering myths to the earth in a language we're only beginning to decipher. Now our journey turns from these silent armadas to a desert where stones don't mark graves, they guard them, with a fury that defies explanation. The 26th mystery, the Kochno Stone's celestial code, barely a stone's throw from Glasgow's modern sprawl, buried beneath a protective layer of earth, lies a slab that might just rewrite our understanding of prehistoric astronomy. The Kochno Stone isn't just another rock with ancient graffiti. It's a 6,000-pound canvas etched with intricate spirals, concentric circles, and mysterious cup marks, some connected by grooves like celestial highways. Discovered in 1887, this sandstone giant was so baffling that archaeologists reburied it in 1965 to shield it from vandalism, leaving its secrets literally underground. What makes these carvings so extraordinary? Unlike random scratches, the patterns repeat with mathematical precision. Some researchers argue they're a star map, with cup marks representing constellations and radiating lines mirroring planetary movements. One compelling theory suggests the stone's central motifs align with the positions of Orion and Pleiades as they appeared over Scotland 5 millennia ago, knowledge supposedly beyond Neolithic farmers. Others see it as a ritual portal, the grooves channeling rainwater or blood during ceremonies to commune with ancestors or gods. But here's the twist, the stone's symbols aren't unique. Similar cup and ring marks appear across Europe, from Ireland to Iberia, hinting at a shared prehistoric language lost to time. Were these teaching tools for early astronomers or sacred blueprints linking Earth to the cosmos? Modern laser scans reveal previously invisible details, footprints, handprints, even traces of pigment suggesting the stone was interacted with, not just observed. The Kochno Stone's reburial adds another layer of intrigue. Why hide it instead of studying it? Some say it was to preserve its fragile surface, but others whisper about strange phenomena, local accounts of dizziness or visions when touching the carvings. Whether it's a map, an altar, or something beyond our grasp, one thing's clear. This slab is a Rosetta Stone of the Neolithic, waiting for the right eyes to decode its message. From this buried enigma, our path now leads to a desert where stones don't mark the stars, they track time itself with terrifying accuracy. Perched high in the Andes, where clouds weave between stone foundations, Machu Picchu's walls hold more than just architectural genius, they hide silent puzzles in plain sight. Look closely and you'll spot something odd. Certain stones scattered throughout the site aren't smooth or symmetrical. Instead, they're studded with strange protrusions, small, rounded knobs jutting from their surfaces, or grooves carved with deliberate precision. These aren't mistakes or erosion, they're intentional, and their purpose has baffled researchers for decades. One theory suggests these knobs were part of an ingenious construction technique. The Inca lacked mortar, relying instead on perfectly fitted stones to create earthquake-resistant structures. The protrusions might have served as handles, allowing workers to maneuver massive blocks into place with ropes or wooden levers. Once the wall was complete, the knobs could have been shaved off, yet many remain untouched, as if the builders abandoned the final step or left them as markers. Recent experiments show that gripping these knobs with padded ropes distributes weight evenly, making the stones easier to lift without modern machinery. But there's another, more haunting possibility. Some of these grooved stones align with solstice sunrises or shadow patterns that cascade across the terraces during equinoxes. Could they have been ritual anchors used to tether ceremonial ropes or hang offerings? Local Quechua elders speak of saywas, sacred markers that connected the physical and spiritual worlds. The stone's placement near key temples and astronomical sightlines hints at a dual purpose, both practical and ceremonial, much like the Inca themselves, who seamlessly blended engineering with cosmology. What's undeniable is the sophistication behind these details. The same civilization that built Machu Picchu without the wheel or iron tools also engineered a drainage system so effective it still functions today. Their stones weren't just stacked, they were understood, shaped to converse with the land and the stars. The knobs and grooves aren't flaws, they're fingerprints of a culture that turned rock into reverence, leaving us to wonder how much we've yet to learn from their silent, steadfast language. Now, from these mist-shrouded heights, our path descends to a desert where stones don't just stand, they move, defying everything we know about the laws of nature. Hidden beneath the dense canopy of Brazil's Amazon lies a secret that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient South America. Known as the Stonehenge of the Amazon, a perfect ring of towering granite blocks juts from the earth, their surfaces weathered but their alignment eerily precise. While Europe's Stonehenge has captivated imaginations for centuries, this discovery forces us to reconsider, were ancient megalithic builders far more interconnected than we ever imagined. What sets this site apart isn't just its existence, it's the sophistication of its design. The stones don't stand randomly, they mark the winter solstice sunrise with uncanny accuracy, suggesting an advanced understanding of celestial patterns. Archaeologists date the site to over 1,000 years old, built by a mysterious pre-Columbian culture that left no written records. The granite blocks, some weighing several tons, were transported from quarries miles away, a feat requiring coordination and engineering skill that rivals the great stone monuments of the ancient world. But who were these builders? Local indigenous traditions speak of ancestors who read the sky, but mainstream archaeology struggles to place these stones within known cultures. Some researchers see parallels with the Inca's celestial observatories, while others speculate about a lost civilization that once thrived in the Amazon before the jungle reclaimed its domain. Even more intriguing are the faint carvings found on some stones, geometric patterns resembling those at distant sites like Ireland's Newgrange or Peru's Chanquillo. Could these similarities hint at a shared celestial language spanning continents? The Amazon's relentless humidity and vegetation make excavation a race against time. Every dig risks losing fragile clues to decay or looting, leaving us with more questions than answers. Yet the stones remain silent and steadfast, as if guarding a truth we're not yet ready to uncover. Whether a temple, a calendar, or something beyond our current grasp, one thing is certain: this isn't just another ruin. It's a challenge to rewrite history, proving that the thirst to map the heavens wasn't confined to the deserts and plains of the old world, but flourished even in the heart of the jungle. As we leave the whispering stones of the Amazon behind, another mystery calls, one where the rocks themselves seem to hold the echoes of forgotten voices. High in the windswept hills of southeastern Turkey, a forgotten site whispers secrets older than civilization itself. Navali Sori might not have the fame of nearby Göbekli Tepe, but its T-shaped pillars, some carved with eerie human-like hands and belts, tell a story just as revolutionary. Unearthed in the 1990s, these stones predate even their more celebrated neighbors by centuries, pushing the origins of ritual architecture further back than we ever imagined. What sets these pillars apart isn't just their age, but their uncanny details. Unlike the animal-adorned monoliths at Göbekli Tepe, Navali-Sori stones bear carvings of human arms, bent as if resting on invisible waists with belts cinched at their middles. The effect is haunting, almost as if the stones themselves were meant to represent ancestral figures frozen in time. Archaeologists have painstakingly pieced together fragments suggesting these pillars once stood in circular formations, their presence marking sacred gathering spaces long before villages or farms existed. But who or what were they honoring? The absence of domestic artifacts hints this wasn't a settlement but a place of ceremony. Some researchers believe the hands and belts symbolize elite status, suggesting the dawn of social hierarchy. Imagine a time before kings or priests, where early hunter-gatherers gathered to venerate ancestors or forces of nature, their rituals solidifying bonds between scattered clans. Others propose these were teaching stones, their carvings encoding myths or spiritual knowledge passed down through generations. The most tantalizing clue lies in the pillar's deliberate burial. Like Göbekli Tepe, Navali-Sori was carefully backfilled, its structures preserved as if meant to be rediscovered. Was this an act of reverence, sealing away sacred ground for future descendants? Or fear, hiding something too powerful to leave exposed? Standing among these silent sentinels, one thing becomes clear: these stones weren't just art. They were the first chapters in humanity's oldest story, written not in words, but in the language of rock and ritual. As we turn from Anatolia's ancient plains, another mystery rises from the earth, one where stones don't stand in circles but spiral into the unknown. The 30th mystery, the unexplained stone balls of Scotland. Tucked away in the misty glens and ancient burial mounds of Scotland lie objects so meticulously crafted they seem out of place in the Neolithic world. Carved from granite, sandstone, or even quartz, these palm-sized stone spheres, some smooth as river pebbles, others etched with intricate geometric patterns, have puzzled archaeologists for over a century. Unlike Costa Rica's colossal orbs, these Scottish artifacts are small enough to cradle in your hand, yet their precision is no less astonishing. Each one is nearly perfectly round, with grooves or knobs arranged in symmetrical designs so precise, they hint at tools or techniques far beyond what history books claim for their era. What's striking isn't just their craftsmanship, it's their sheer abundance. Over 400 of these stone balls have been unearthed, primarily in burial sites and ritual spaces across northern Scotland. Their uniformity is the real head-scratcher. How did Neolithic cultures without standardized measuring tools achieve such consistency? Some theories suggest they were used as weapons, like early versions of sling stones, their heft designed to deliver crushing blows. Yet their delicate carvings and frequent placement alongside grave goods suggest something more symbolic. Were they badges of rank passed down among chieftains, or sacred objects imbued with spiritual significance? Then there's the enigma of their patterns. Many feature swirling spirals or interlocking lines reminiscent of Celtic knotwork, except these predate the Celts by millennia. Could they have served as primitive calendars, their grooves tracking lunar cycles or seasonal changes? Or perhaps tactile maps, their raised bumps guiding fingers along unseen routes? The truth might lie in their context. Several were found clutched in the hands of skeletons, as if carried into the afterlife as talismans or keys to the next world. Modern craftsmen have tried to replicate these spheres using only period-appropriate tools, and the results are telling. Even with today's knowledge, achieving such symmetry-free hand is painstaking work, raising the provocative question: did these stones roll off some sort of prehistoric assembly line, or were they the life's work of specialized artisans? Whether weapons, ornaments, or something far more mysterious, these stone balls are a reminder that the past rarely fits into tidy explanations. They're small enough to hold, but their secrets weigh heavy, proof that sometimes the most profound mysteries come in the unlikeliest packages. The 31st mystery, the stone walls of the Inca's masterpieces of seismic resistance. Imagine a civilization so attuned to the Earth's vibrations that they built walls capable of dancing with earthquakes instead of crumbling beneath them. Beyond the famed terraces of Sacsayhuaman, the Incas left behind a network of stone walls so seamlessly fitted, they've shrugged off centuries of tremors that would flatten modern cities. These aren't just impressive feats of engineering, they're silent dialogues between human ingenuity and the raw power of nature. The secret lies in the stones themselves. Unlike the rigid, mortar-heavy constructions of later empires, Inca walls were built like three-dimensional puzzles. Each block was individually shaped, some with as many as 30 intricate angles locking into its neighbors with such precision that even today, you can't slide a credit card between the seams. But here's what's truly remarkable. Instead of resisting seismic waves, these walls absorb them. The stones shift slightly during tremors, then settle back into place unharmed, a technique modern engineers call dynamic masonry. In a land where the ground shakes as often as the wind blows, this wasn't just clever, it was life-saving. Yet the deeper you look, the more you realize these walls weren't just practical. The Incas saw stone as alive, infused with kame, a life force connecting all things. Some blocks bear subtle carvings of serpents or pumas, hinting at spiritual guardianship. Others are positioned to align with solstice sunrises or sacred mountain peaks, blending utility with cosmology. Take the streets of Cusco, where certain walls curve gently, mirroring the flow of rivers, or the celestial path of the Milky Way, revered as a cosmic river in Inca belief. Were these designs mere aesthetics, or did the Incas believe harmonious stones could channel Earth's energy as a form of protection? Modern Peru still relies on this ancient wisdom. After a devastating earthquake in 1950, colonial buildings around Cusco collapsed, but the Inca walls stood firm, their undamaged stretches tracing ghostly outlines amid the rubble. Today, seismologists study these structures for clues to disaster-resistant architecture, while locals whisper that the stones remember their original purpose, to stand unshaken, not just by the Earth's movements, but by time itself. From these living walls, our journey turns to a desert where stones don't just withstand chaos, they capture it in frozen, breathtaking detail. The 32nd mystery, the megaliths of Medjugorje beneath the rolling green hills of Bosnia, whispers of something extraordinary refused to fade. The quiet town of Medjugorje, best known for its modern religious apparitions, hides another enigma, one much older. Here, a series of towering stone structures rise from the earth, their geometric perfection so striking that some claim they're remnants of ancient pyramids, lost beneath layers of soil and skepticism. At first glance, the hills seem ordinary soft curves blanketed in vegetation, unremarkable against Bosnia's rugged landscape. But look closer. The slopes reveal unnaturally straight edges, terraced formations, and massive stone blocks that fit together like pieces of a forgotten puzzle. Independent researchers like Semir Osmanagic, who popularized the Bosnian pyramid theory, argue these are no accidents of nature. They point to precise alignments with the cardinal directions, energy anomalies detected beneath the hills, and even what appear to be ancient tunnels snaking underground. Yet mainstream science remains unconvinced. Geologists counter that the so-called pyramids are natural landforms, shaped by millions of years of tectonic shifts and erosion. The stone blocks, fractured bedrock, their sharp edges the result of geological stress rather than human craftsmanship. surveys and excavations funded by local authorities have yielded no definitive proof of man-made construction, no artifacts, no tools, no traces of a pyramid-building culture known to history. The debate turns feverish when you consider the anomalies that resist easy dismissal. Why do certain sections of the tunnels feature smooth, almost polished walls, unlike anything found in natural caves? Why do electromagnetic readings spike in specific areas, as if some hidden energy source still hums beneath the earth? And then there's the sheer scale. If these are artificial, they dwarf even the Great Pyramid of Giza, rewriting the timeline of human civilization. Local legends add another layer of intrigue. Folktales speak of a time when giants walked these hills, shaping the land with hands as powerful as the gods. Could these stories preserve echoes of an advanced but forgotten society? Or is the human mind simply wired to see patterns even where none exist? For now, the stones of Medjugorje keep their secrets. Whether a geological marvel or a lost chapter of human ambition, they challenge us to question what we think we know about the past. After all, history has taught us this much. The line between myth and reality is often thinner than the edge of a chisel. From these disputed hills, our journey takes us next to a desert where stones don't sit in silence. They hum with the echoes of a mystery that refuses to be buried. The 33rd mystery, the stone circles of Senegambia, a lunar legacy carved in stone stretching across the border of Senegal and Gambia. An ancient necropolis lies hidden beneath towering baobabs and golden grasslands. Here, beneath the vast African sky, over 1,000 stone circles stand like silent sentinels, each one a burial site, each one a testament to a forgotten civilization's reverence for the dead and the cosmos. Unlike the towering megaliths of Europe or the intricate carvings of South America, these circles are humble in height but staggering in scale. Some stones rise no higher than your knee, arranged in perfect rings that span dozens of feet. Yet their simplicity belies their sophistication. What's baffling isn't just their sheer number, it's their precision. Researchers studying the sites of Washu and Kerbach discovered something extraordinary. The stones align with key lunar phases, marking solstices and equinoxes with eerie accuracy. Some circles even mirror celestial constellations, suggesting the builders didn't just bury their dead, they charted the heavens. For a culture that left no written records, these stones are their astronomy textbook, written in granite and laterite. But who were these builders? Carbon dating places the earliest circles around the 3rd century BCE, crafted by a society that predated empires like Ghana or Mali. Archaeologists call them the Sura or Wolof ancestors, but their true identity remains as elusive as the purpose behind their work. The stones themselves offer cryptic hints. Some bear faint, weathered carving spirals, zigzags, even humanoid figures, while others stand blank, as if their meaning was meant to be felt, not seen. Local oral traditions speak of a time when the stones were placed by people who walked with the moon, their movements dictated by celestial rhythms. The real enigma lies in the logistics. How did a seemingly decentralized culture coordinate such a monumental effort? The stones were quarried miles away, hauled without wheels or beasts of burden, and arranged with geometrical exactness. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, there's no evidence of a ruling class or centralized authority here. Instead, the circles suggest communal effort, a shared belief so powerful, it united scattered villages across generations. Today, the circles endure, though erosion and agriculture threaten their silent watch. UNESCO guards them as World Heritage Sites, but the greater protection might be their own mystery. These aren't just graves, they're a challenge to our assumptions about ancient Africa. While Europe built towering cathedrals and Asia raised pagodas, West Africa's architects were mapping the sky itself, one stone at a time. As we leave these lunar-aligned rings behind, another puzzle calls one where stones don't just mark time, but seem to defy it entirely. Deep within the Great Pyramid's labyrinth of corridors, modern technology has uncovered something astonishing: hidden voids, vast and unexplored, concealed behind walls that have stood undisturbed for millennia. In 2017, a team of scientists using advanced muon tomography, a technique that essentially X-rays stone with cosmic particles, detected an immense cavity above the Grand Gallery, nearly 100 feet long. Another unexplained void lies behind the pyramid's north face. These aren't mere cracks or structural gaps, their precise dimensions suggest deliberate design. What could lie within these sealed chambers? Mainstream Egyptology hesitates to speculate, though some theorize they might be construction gaps meant to relieve pressure on the pyramid's inner passages. But the sheer scale defies simple explanation. Could one of these voids contain Khufu's true burial chamber, still hidden despite centuries of exploration? The pyramid's known sarcophagus in the king's chamber was found empty, fueling speculation that his remains, and the treasures meant to accompany him, were concealed elsewhere as a safeguard against tomb raiders. Then there's the tantalizing possibility of something even more unexpected. The void's alignments mirror key astronomical events, much like the pyramid's shafts which target Orion's belt and Sirius. Were these spaces ritual chambers, repositories of sacred knowledge, or even, as fringe researchers propose, storage for advanced artifacts now lost to time? The precision of their placement hints at purpose, not accident. Pulling back the veil won't be easy. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities has cautiously approved non-invasive investigations, wary of repeating past mistakes like reckless drilling or damaging intact structures. Robotic cameras and micro-drills may one day reveal what's hidden, but for now, the pyramid guards its secrets as fiercely as it did when it rose from the desert sands. One thing's certain, the world's most studied monument still has stories to tell if only we learn how to listen. From these shadowed chambers, we turn to a mystery far older, one where the stones don't whisper but roar. The 35th mystery, the stone code of the Phaistos disc buried in the ashes of a Minoan palace on Crete. A small clay disc no wider than your palm holds one of antiquity's most stubborn secrets. The Phaistos disc isn't just an artifact, it's a riddle wrapped in spirals of stamped symbols, a language no one alive today can read. Discovered in 1908, its surface swirls with 241 tiny impressions. Human figures, birds, plants, and strange geometric shapes, all arranged in a dizzying spiral from edge to center. But here's what truly baffles scholars. Every mark was made using individual stamps, a form of movable type printing predating Gutenberg by over 3 millennia. So why did this revolutionary technology vanish for thousands of years, leaving no trace anywhere else in the ancient world? Theories about the disc's purpose are as varied as its cryptic symbols. Some argue it's a sacred hymn, its symbols encoding prayers to forgotten Minoan deities. Others see it as an agricultural calendar, tracking planting cycles or lunar phases crucial to Bronze Age survival. The spiral format lends itself to ritual, perhaps a pilgrim's journey, each symbol a step toward enlightenment. Then there's the more tantalizing idea that it's a story, maybe even a legal document, preserving a narrative or treaty in a world before alphabets. But without a Rosetta Stone to crack its code, every translation remains guesswork. Linguists have tried for over a century, comparing the symbols to linear A hieroglyphs, even ancient Anatolian scripts, yet no key fits. What's even stranger is the disc's singularity. No other stamped text from this era have ever been found, not in Crete nor beyond. If the Minoans had a printing technology this advanced, why didn't it spread? Was it a royal secret lost when the palace burned, a prototype abandoned as impractical, or something far more intriguing? Could the disc be a foreign object crafted by visitors from a culture we've yet to uncover? Its clay composition matches local sources, but its design feels eerily out of place, like a single page torn from a book we'll never find. The mystery deepens when you consider the hands that made it. Each symbol was pressed into the clay with meticulous care, the disc rotated like a potter's wheel to ensure perfect alignment. This wasn't hurried work, it was deliberate, almost ceremonial. And then it was baked, hardening the message for eternity. Was it meant to be read, or was the act of stamping itself the true purpose, a ritual imprint of sacred knowledge? Today, the disc sits behind glass in Herakleon's archaeological museum, its symbols still whispering. Modern technology has mapped every groove, every fingerprint in the clay, yet the message remains just out of reach. Perhaps the answer isn't in the symbols alone, but in the silence around them, a reminder that some languages aren't meant to be translated, only pondered. For now, the Phaistos disc keeps its secrets, a tiny clay enigma that defies the weight of centuries. As we turn from this mute messenger of the past, another mystery rises, one where the stones don't just speak in symbols, but in echoes that ripple across mountains. The 36th mystery, the underwater stones of Lake Michigan beneath the shimmering surface of Lake Michigan, where sunlight fades into murky depths. Sonar scans have revealed something that shouldn't be there. A series of massive stones arranged in a near-perfect circular formation rest on the lakebed like the ghostly echo of a forgotten ritual. Stretching roughly 40 feet across, the structure bears an uncanny resemblance to European megalithic sites, except this one lies hidden under hundreds of feet of freshwater, far from any known ancient settlements. What makes this discovery so bewildering isn't just its existence, it's the unanswered question of who built it. Lake Michigan's water levels have fluctuated dramatically over millennia. Geological evidence suggests that around 9,000 years ago, this area would have been dry land, inhabited by the region's earliest post-Ice Age peoples. Yet these hunter-gatherer societies were long assumed to be nomadic, leaving few permanent marks on the landscape. So why carve and arrange colossal stones in a pattern that would only be visible centuries later through advanced technology? One leading theory proposes a practical function. The stones could have formed part of an ancient fishing weir, their alignment designed to funnel fish into traps, a technique used by indigenous cultures across the Great Lakes for generations. But the structure's near-perfect symmetry raises doubts. Would a utilitarian fish trap require such precise geometry? Another possibility points to celestial alignment. Preliminary surveys hint that some stones might correspond with solstice sunrises, suggesting a ceremonial purpose similar to Stonehenge or Ohio's Serpent Mound. Then there's the unsettling reality of its obscurity. Unlike land-based megaliths, this underwater site offers no artifacts, no carvings, no bones, just silent stones swallowed by rising waters. Without physical evidence, archaeologists can only speculate. Some indigenous oral traditions speak of star ancestors who walked the region when the land was new, leaving markers for future generations. Could these stones be remnants of that lost epoch, a physical memory of people who thrived here before the lakes filled? For now, the site remains shrouded in the lake's embrace, its secrets preserved by the very water that hides it. Every scan, every dive only deepens the enigma. Whether a sacred circle, a forgotten tool, or something beyond our current understanding, one truth lingers. History doesn't just reside on dry land. Sometimes the most profound mysteries lie in the places we least expect, waiting beneath the waves for their story to resurface. As we leave these submerged stones behind, another enigma calls, one where the earth itself seems to have been sculpted with impossible precision. The 37th mystery, the shattered megaliths of Pumapunku. At first glance, the ruins of Pumapunku look less like ancient architecture and more like the debris of some celestial explosion, blocks of andesite and red sandstone scattered across Bolivia's high-altitude plains as if a giant's hand had smashed them apart. But lean closer, the fractured stones reveal edges so sharp, angles so exact, they look as though they were sliced with industrial tools rather than Bronze Age chisels. These aren't crude slabs, they're geometric puzzles interlocking like fragments of a machine far beyond the technological grasp of the civilization history claims built them. What defies logic isn't just the precision, it's the scale. Some blocks weigh over 100 tons, yet their surfaces are drilled with perfect cylindrical holes, their grooves and notches aligned to tolerances of less than a millimeter. Modern engineers struggle to replicate this level of accuracy without computer-guided equipment. So how did the Tiwanaku people who flourished here over 1,000 years ago achieve it? Conventional archaeology points to patient labor with stone hammers and abrasive sand, but even those methods can't fully explain the complexity. The stone's symmetrical channels and dovetail cuts suggest knowledge of modular construction, like prefabricated parts meant to slot together flawlessly. Then there's the haunting question of purpose. Local Aymara legends speak of Puma Punku as the place where the gods first descended, a gateway linking Earth to the stars. The site's name itself means Door of the Puma, hinting at a threshold between worlds. Fringe theorists take this further, proposing the ruins were part of an energy grid or even a crashed alien vessel. Mainstream scholars dismiss such claims, yet even they admit the site's layout mirrors celestial patterns, with alignments to solstices and the Southern Cross constellation. Could these stones have been components of a vast, forgotten technology, one that harnessed earthly or cosmic forces? The most unsettling detail lies in the devastation. The site wasn't slowly abandoned, it was shattered as if by a cataclysmic force. Geological evidence points to a massive flood, possibly triggered by a glacial outburst thousands of years ago. But the fractures on certain stones look eerily deliberate, like targeted demolition. Were the builders trying to dismantle their own creation, or was something else at work? Today, Puma Punku's ruins lie like a challenge to history, daring us to reconcile their sophistication with the timeline we've constructed. Every unanswered question peels back another layer, leaving us to wonder, were these stones merely the foundation of a temple or the remnants of something far more extraordinary, a bridge between the possible and the unimaginable? As we step away from these fragmented enigmas, another mystery emerges, one where the stones aren't just carved, but imbued with a power that defies explanation. The 38th mystery, the silent stones of Callanish when the moon commands the stones on the windswept moors of Scotland's Isle of Lewis. A stone circle unlike any other rises from the peat and heather, not in a simple ring, but in the shape of a colossal Celtic cross, its arms outstretched as if reaching toward the horizon. Callanish doesn't just stand, it commands. Unlike the more famous Stonehenge, these monoliths don't merely track the sun. They hold a silent, unbreakable dialogue with the moon. The precision here is breathtaking. The central stones form a near-perfect circle, while avenues of towering megaliths radiate outward like spokes, forming a cross that aligns with the lunar standstill, an event occurring only once every 6 years when the moon skims the horizon at its most extreme points. On these nights, the shadows cast by the stones stretch in eerie, elongated lines, as if drawing power from the celestial dance above. Archaeologists still debate how Neolithic builders, without written records or advanced tools, could calculate such a complex cycle, let alone encode it into stone. Local legends offer a darker explanation. The Gaelic name for the site, Tursachan Chalonais, hints at its mythic past, petrified giants frozen in place for defying the gods. Folklore whispers that the stones were once a procession of giants turned to rock by an ancient curse. Some say they still wake when the moon hangs low, their shadows shifting like living things. Modern visitors often report an uncanny stillness here, a silence so thick it feels deliberate, as if the stones are listening. What rituals unfolded under their watch? Excavations have uncovered traces of fires, pottery shards, and even cremated remains near the central monolith, suggesting ceremonies spanning centuries. The most haunting clue lies in the ground itself. Geophysical surveys reveal a massive buried stone, twice the size of any visible today, lying prone beneath the peat. Was it a focal point for gatherings, NOW Chinese letter beneath the earth, or a fallen guardian, its purpose lost to time? Kalanish refuses to fit neatly into the narratives we've crafted for other megaliths. It's not just a calendar, not just a temple, it's a testament to a people who saw the moon not as a distant rock, but as a force to be communed with, feared and revered. As the mist rolls in, wrapping the stones in ghostly silence, one thing becomes clear: some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, they're meant to humble us. And now, as we near the end of our journey, we turn to one final enigma, a place where stones don't just mark time or channel the heavens, but seem to pulse with a life all their own. The 39th mystery, the unfinished obelisk of a swan, a monument frozen in time. Imagine standing at the edge of a sandstone quarry in Aswan, Egypt, staring into a trench carved deep into the earth, and there, half released from the bedrock, lies the ghost of what could have been. This is the unfinished obelisk, a 200-ton behemoth abandoned mid-creation, its bottom still fused to the stone that birthed it. Stretching 137 feet long, had it ever stood upright, it would have dwarfed every other obelisk in history, piercing the sky at nearly 1/3 the height of the Great Pyramid. But it never left the ground. What makes this monolith extraordinary isn't just its size, it's the fossilized snapshot of ancient engineering it provides. Unlike polished obelisks already raised in temples across Egypt, this one is frozen in its rawest state, revealing the meticulous methods of its makers. Workers carved trenches around its outline, then painstakingly chiseled away the rock beneath, likely using nothing more than dolerite hammers, a stone harder than granite. The precision is staggering. The sides taper perfectly, the edges sharp as if drawn by a ruler. Even more fascinating, the guide lines etched into its surface, markings for where craftsmen would have smoothed and shaped it further, proof that this wasn't just a rough draft but a project nearing completion. Then the crack, a jagged flaw ruptures through the obelisk's midsection, splintering its destiny in an instant. Was it a natural fault in the stone, overlooked in the quarry's haste? Or did stress fractures form from the relentless hammering, dooming the project before it could be freed? Archaeologists lean toward the latter. Egyptian builders were meticulous, but even they couldn't defy physics. The obelisk's own weight may have betrayed it, the stone groaning under its immensity until it fractured beyond repair. But here's the haunting question: why leave it in place? Most failed projects were repurposed or buried, yet this one was left as if waiting for a second chance. Some scholars propose it was a training site where apprentices learned their craft on a monument never meant to stand. Others see it as a symbol of ambition's limits, deliberately preserved as a warning or tribute to the gods' whims. The most compelling clue lies nearby, another abandoned obelisk, smaller but equally flawed, suggesting this quarry was a gambler's den of megalithic risks where triumphs and tragedies were carved side by side. The unfinished obelisk is more than a failed project. It's a testament to human audacity and humility. In its cracked silhouette, we see the line between ambition and overreach, between what hands can shape and what stone allows. For all their skill, even the Egyptians couldn't cheat imperfection. Yet in that failure, they left us something priceless, a raw, unvarnished lesson in how the ancient world reached for the impossible, one hammer strike at a time. And with that, our journey through 39 stone-bound mysteries comes to a close. But remember, each crack, each carving, each abandoned project is a whisper from the past, waiting for the right moment to speak. The stones are patient. Our turn to listen has only just begun. Closing thoughts, the language of stone, from the towering precision of the Great Pyramid to the haunting gaze of Easter Island's Moai. One truth echoes through these 39 mysteries: stone is more than just rock. It's humanity's oldest confidant, a medium for our grandest ambitions, deepest fears, and most elusive secrets. These structures weren't merely built, they were conversed with, shaped by hands that saw beyond the physical into realms of celestial alignment, spiritual resonance, and even forgotten technologies. What's astonishing isn't just the scale of these feats, but the diversity of their purpose. Some stones mapped the stars, others defied earthquakes, and a few seemed to hum with energies we're only beginning to measure. The Bluestones of Stonehenge may have been musical instruments, the walls of Sacsayhuamán a love letter to seismic forces, and the Inca stones, whether ancient or modern, a mirror reflecting our hunger for lost worlds. Each site whispers the same tantalizing question: how much have we overlooked? Modern tools are peeling back layers faster than ever. LiDAR reveals jungle-shrouded cities, muon tomography peers through pyramid walls, and AI deciphers eroded inscriptions. Yet for every answer, 10 new mysteries emerge. Maybe that's the point. These stones aren't puzzles to be solved, but invitations to stay curious, to marvel at the ingenuity of cultures we've underestimated and ponder the threads connecting them across continents and millennia. So where do we go from here? The next breakthrough might lie in your backyard, in a desert still hiding its monuments, or in a museum vault where an overlooked artifact waits for fresh eyes. History isn't static, it's a conversation, and these stones are the most patient voices in the room. Now it's your turn. Which of these mysteries captivated you most? Do you think we'll ever fully unravel their secrets, or are some truths meant to stay just out of reach? Drop your thoughts below. And if you've enjoyed this journey through time and stone, don't forget to subscribe. The past isn't finished with us yet, and the next chapter promises to be even more extraordinary. Until then, keep exploring. The world's oldest stories are written in the rocks beneath our